October truly is the month of dystopian horror. A god calling itself the god of justice is in and of itself the apex of hubris. Freedom, contracts, and eternity are neutral terms of consideration, but to call yourself wise or just is a different story altogether. If you believe your ideals have no stains, then let's put that to the test. So today, let's pull back the smoke and mirrors of this jazzy place and finally show the ugly that they're trying to hide. Because today, I'm here to theorize that Fontaine is corrupt. To contextualize this, let's begin with Fontaine's legal court. Fontaine's legal court is headed by a court of ethereal and beautiful women, with a Hydro-Archon seemingly overseeing the nation. However, according to the Chief Justice in Nahida's description, that there exists another person that should be prone to hysterics. While this person was never given a name, it's possible they're talking about the Hydro-Archon, given how stoic and absolute she believes her ideals are based on the description of the Varuna Lazurite gemstone. Which is fascinating. All the gods we've seen so far are known to care for their people, and maybe the Hydro-Archon does care, but the fact that there is such a disparity between the god and their Archon is almost akin to Sumeru's Kusanali and the Sages, meaning that whatever is happening here is an internal conflict. And speaking of Fontainian laws, they are known as rigorous and tedious, and the court punishments are harsh and mortifying. According to Patrice, as long as he doesn't lose his life, anything is better than going to Fontainian court. So if it seems that you're landing a hearing, you're already doomed. But what's fascinating is that Patrice argues that his homeland is innocent, despite literally saying that the additional factors in the law could get him killed. This is actually similar to what Xavier says about his homeland, praising its beauty and magnificence to no end, as well as the pretty maidens in the judicial system. So, they believe that their homeland is faultless. This is a strange mindset that we haven't seen from other nations. Actually, no, we have seen this before in another nation. Snezhnayans are also deathly loyal to the motherland, perhaps to a greater extent than Fontainians. But we still see patriotism from these people. So whatever is influencing the minds of the people to believe that Fontaine is this almighty nation better than the others is keeping them from questioning the seemingly dangerous system. So I think that the answer is simpler. Unlike Sumeru's NPCs, Fontainians act like nothing is wrong most of the time. Even the Archon believes that her ideals have no stains. There is this theme of naguhugas kamay, or washing your hands from both sin and obligation. It's a Filipino term. The government, the Court of Fontaine, essentially controls the most important source of information in the city, the Steambird. The Steambird is a newspaper that we heard from Mona's character story, and is the largest newspaper in Fontaine. You know that quote that says, media as the fifth estate, or freedom of the press is freedom of the people's voice? I think this applies here. If the state controls the media in their country, they can essentially break anyone that dares to say anything bad against them. Our own history would show how important revolutionary writings are to testing cruel acts of the state. And even in Genshin, this is shown. Genshin never shies away from a people's revolution, whether it be through war, through direct faction opposition, or in the future, media revolution. But that's just one of the many possibilities. We also need to consider the physical environment of Fontaine. According to a mysterious source, the pollution situation in Fontaine is drastic, in that the place is almost inhabitable. Every nation has a problem, but also a specific theme on who or what causes that. Mondstadt had an external problem inflicted upon them by the Abyss. Liyue had a problem because their god and an external party had an agreement. Inazuma's primary antagonist was their god, and Sumeru's primary antagonists are the citizens in power and the revival of a dead god. Fontaine's story could be the doubling down of Sumeru's Archon quest, with the environment suffering because of humanity's hubris and innovation. A nice segue to Snezhnaya, and most likely, Conria in the future. But that's just speculation. The truth of that statement as well is also to be considered as a speculation given that there's only one source, and we haven't actually seen Fontaine. Fontaine's theme has an industrial revolution aesthetic to them, a lot of their innovations being mechanical versus the magical innovations that we've been seeing, for example the Akasha Terminal and Sumeru, meaning that one of the themes is most likely the industrial revolution. But there's another theme that I also want to emphasize. The Année Folle is the Roaring Twenties, a period of immense artistic, musical, and literary prosperity. This is where silent films also prospered and were first circulating as a primary form of entertainment, so this would tie in well with films and cameras still being new to the vat. This was also around the end periods of the Industrial Revolution, which means that this would tie in with the fact that Fontaine has a lot of innovation when it comes to forges and blacksmith. For example, the one in Yashiori Island. Aesthetic-wise, it would also fit with the suit and tie dressed to the nines associated with Fontaine. But I do have to admit that the NPC style we see in the game first began in the 1910s and not the 1920s. But the actual timeline of this isn't what matters. It's the themes. The Année Folle was the time period before the Great Depression and the Wall Street stock market crash, a global event that shook every economy on the planet. It also doesn't help that this was the years leading up to World War II. The Année Folle and its succession of events being the key motif for Fontaine would bring a new tone to the smokes and mirrors motif. A nation that prides itself of being the grandest and most eloquent, yet is merely a few catastrophes away from crumbling down. But this is just a theory. Anyway, my name is Aster. Thank you for chilling with me with this little diet speculation. It's a little shorter than most of my videos, but I just wanted to get this off my chest. Any Fontaine content is good Fontaine content.